Alright, today we're having a look at to deはねて山ガール, Mountain Girl by histoire-ange. Alright, so here we are in to deはねて山ガール, Mountain Girl by histoire-ange. And I'm liking the way this looks so far. Got a nice little rabbit here. It's very chill. Lots of diegetic sound. I'm trying to check this. Can I check this? There we go. Oh, we get a point from the flowers. As far as I can tell from the start screen, that it's basically just a kind of jumping, platforming exploration. We're looking for point flowers. I didn't realize that one was, but it was indeed. It seems very chill, and kind of in a strangely similar way to White Chainsaw that we looked at back on my birthday, actually, which is a great birthday present. It really kind of feels like it's nailing a mood here. And I really kind of enjoy that mood, just hanging out in the forest, checking things out. We can run a little bit, sort of. And we got some flowers, and just taking our time smelling the roses, although I don't think these are roses exactly. I'm really digging on the character model, and it's something I've been paying a bit more note to, although I've always focused on character models, paying a bit more note to because I'm in the market for a new avatar myself, so like seeing a nicely done woman model is pretty slick to me. I don't know if this is remixable, if the model is available. I wouldn't make an avatar that looked exactly like this, but to use this as a base template would be kind of nice. And speaking of kind of nice, just this entire area is very scenic and very nice. Not too much action going on yet, and that is perfectly fine. Now, do we have to... I mean, we actually have to set the checkpoint? That's kind of interesting. That the checkpoint isn't just automatic. I wonder if there is a gameplay purpose to that. Like, would you like to challenge yourself and not have a checkpoint? Oh, crap. Did we... Oh, fell off the mountain. Would you like to challenge yourself and not have a checkpoint? I almost coughed there. It is the coughing season for me. It is October. No, it's November. Oh my god. It's November. And I will probably have a cough until sometime in May, perhaps. Oh wow, that is nice looking. This whole thing is just so nice looking so far. And again, it's just very chill. And every now and then, hello rabbit. Every now and then you just want kind of a nice chill level like this with a nice realized environment. Oh, can I... What do I do here? Alright, we're just gonna hang out. Taking the sights. That is a nice touch. It's a completely unnecessary touch, but I love completely unnecessary touches like that. I do appreciate when they show up in creations, when they show up in levels. Just things that kind of make this feel like a place and like a character, well, a person in a place. We didn't have to have a rest stop there. There's no stamina meter that we need to build back up again. And our mountain girl, by the way, she's pretty adventurous, hopping over climbing over the logs like that. I might be just a little bit worried about doing that myself. Now, where do we go from here? We got a checkpoint. Can we bunny hop up this? No? I do wish a little bit that maybe she would use her arms and kind of drag herself up by main force, but that is kind of something that I would do. Not necessarily what Mountain Girl would do. I do notice she's got no rope, so probably gonna have a hard time climbing directly up the mountain. Now, that's weird. Why would there be a checkpoint there if there isn't any way to actually progress from that point? Huh. There aren't really any pointers as to where we're supposed to be going here as far as interacting with or progressing the level. We could see more of the stage up above us, but how do we get up to that point? And how do we do it in 36 seconds? Because that's the amount of time that we have left. This is a bit of a poser, folks. Not necessarily a bad poser, but I was expecting... I guess I've gotten used to things being a little bit more straightforward or a little bit more... how to say... Either there's an easy way to progress, a clear way to progress, or there's no way to progress. I'm not usually used to like finding a way to progress in levels, which is kind of neat in and of itself, but it does stitch us up a little bit for the video, and we're gonna have to drop back into the hub, but we will talk about it there. We'll see you there. See yas! And we're back, and Tonde Hanete Yamagaru, Mountain Girl by histoire-ange, and I would say it's a green circle. It may be a bit of a softer one for some people's taste, but I really happen to enjoy this level an awful lot. It's a very, very solid on one. Mentioned in the video that we had taken a look at White Chainsaw. That's Kairichi ni somaru shiro kusari no ko. I should say that faster, but I didn't. I screwed it up in the middle. But anyways, we take a look at White Chainsaw back on my birthday. And one of the things that really stood out for me with White Chainsaw is that it sells mood and it sells the environment really, really well. There's this palpable sense of tension throughout the level, a good use of sound, a good use of environmental design, and the encounters with White Chainsaw Girl, all very solid on and all sell this mood really, really well. And I think that's something that we see in Mountain Girl as well. It's not, of course, the kind of tension and frightening environment or frightening feeling that we saw in White Chainsaw, but this kind of relaxing stroll through the mountains, taking your time, is smelling the flowers like we said in the video, and it is very, very chill. And it comes through very, very clearly, and I appreciated that an awful lot. But also on top of that, it's a very full and complete level. I didn't feel like I'd been cheated out. I didn't feel like it had been overly short. It didn't overstay its welcome necessarily. I think that the pacing of the level works pretty well with what it's trying to do. The first time that I played through the level, and it took about a half an hour for me to go through because I got lost a couple of times. We're going to talk about that in a minute. I was just kind of enjoying the scenery and enjoying myself and kind of pacing myself through the level. I went through a little bit more quickly for the pips the second time through, and it took about 13 minutes. So once you kind of know the route, if you want to move through more quickly, you can certainly do that. But I do think it is a level that lends itself to a little bit more of a slow-paced exploration and a little bit more of a slow-paced experience of that level. One thing that I found interesting and I thought was really quite well done was the use of diegetic sound. We've talked about this in a couple of episodes before, where except for one bit at the very, very end to kind of signal that the level is complete and you've kind of succeeded in scaling the mountain, there are no other sounds in the level besides those sounds that would be produced in that type of environment. And I think it does work really well. There's some cool little points there. One, for example, that the sound of the wind becomes more present, becomes stronger as you're going up the mountain. And I found that really, really interesting to kind of grade up the sound volume like that, because that's, you know, what it would be like on a windy day on the mountain. Once you're getting out of the cover of the bushes and the trees and you're kind of on the top, there's nothing to block the wind, it's going to sound and feel a lot stronger. So that was a really, really cool minor detail. Now, one point against diegetic sound levels like that is that it's hard to kind of push the player's pace, and it's hard to build kind of a sense of you should be moving quicker. It's hard to build a little bit of a sense of platforming action, I suppose might be a good way to put it here. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but you may find yourself, if you're someone who needs to engage with the level a little bit more quickly, if you're somebody who wants to be pushed a bit more when playing levels, you may not find that here, and I think that should be noted. Now, on the other side of, you know, diegesis and diegetic sound and diegesis, something I originally heard in a kind of a sound context for films, but I do often think of diegesis in a broader sense of things that would make sense in an environment. You know, would you have a chainsaw in a nursery? And if you did have a chainsaw in the nursery, would that make sense for the story? And what would it say about what was going on in the story? Or is it just like a random object that pulls you out of the environment? And there is an example of that here, I feel. Almost everything in the level fits. It makes sense for a natural environment, a natural mountain that we're climbing, except for the wooden log platforms. There are a few places early on where they do make sense, like a tree that's collapsed, you know, over a break in the mountain, like over a small ravine, that somebody might have pushed that there, or it may have fallen and rollen in that sense. I mean, you could see that if you do hiking now and then. But later on, as you go in, and you've got these wooden platforms that are just like sticking out into space. There's nothing securing them in the environment. They're balanced on each other sometimes. You only have like 2 or 3 that are stacked up on each other. And that does, I feel, take a little bit out from the environment because they don't make any kind of diegetic sense to be there. There's no natural way, and very difficult, any man-made way that you could get that type of effect, certainly without scaffolding or things holding them down. So that was, I think there might have been better ways to have achieved that effect. Maybe with like rock outcroppings, for example, might have been better because they could break in the middle, for example, but have been an original arch. It's a bit of a minor point. Another minor point that kind of goes along with that is that I do feel the platforming is not necessarily well scaled. There are some jumps, they're not particularly hard jumps, especially when you know they're coming up. But there are some jumps later on in the level that can be a bit easily missed and can cost you a fair amount of progress, which in and of itself is not necessarily a bad thing, but because all the platforming up to that point has been really quite easy, there's nothing I think that builds the player's skill or warns the player that that's going to be coming up. But interesting that it does tie into another point, something that we mentioned in the video, was why were the checkpoints activatable? Why weren't they just triggered as you walked by them? And if you do find yourself falling down and losing progress, to not immediately trigger a checkpoint means that you can use the triangle button to reset yourself up to the last checkpoint so that you don't actually have to climb back through. You don't have to backtrack up to get to where you were. And I thought that was a pretty useful technique that I used a number of times the first playthrough, because I did miss a lot of jumps on the first playthrough. Interesting point that I found, and something I don't really think I've seen in too many other levels, but there are a number of character animations that are triggered with the the trigger buttons and the bumper buttons on the DS4, and they're just like really cool, completely unnecessary, but that do give a better sense of character and who Mountain Girl is, and make her feel less like a puppet and more like a person. And I thought that was really cool, this unnecessary detail that Ange took the time to put into the level, as well those places where you can kind of sit on the stumps and just relax, take in the view, for example. They didn't need to be there. They serve no gameplay function, no gameplay purpose, but they, again, make it feel more like, a human, a person is interacting with this environment, not just a gameplay puppet. And that I thought was really neat. Another one of these little tricks that Ange uses in the level, in environmental cues to let you know where you're going. The rabbits actually do have a purpose. They're not just there to look cool, although they absolutely do look cool. That sometimes you'll see the rabbits and they're bounding along the path, and that's the path that you need to be taking for progress. It's not made really obvious, and it didn't click until later on that that's exactly what they were doing. But around the point that we got stuck in the video where I wasn't sure where to go, I noticed a rabbit jumping along, and I moved the camera around to see where it was going, and oh yeah, hey, that's where we can go. That was really nice. That was a very cool touch, and I was very appreciative that it was in the level. The main point of replayability that you might find in the level, depending, as your mileage may vary, is finding those flowers. I think the best that I did the first playthrough was finding 14 out of 25. The second playthrough I only found 13 out of 25. Some of them are quite tucked away. It can be a little bit tough to see how you're supposed to jump to get to some of these places, and some of them do require actually falling down from above to find them and then kind of getting your way back up to the mountain, or skipping if you've got a checkpoint that's farther up ahead. That was kind of neat, and I liked it. So the mix of, can you beat your time, can you find more flowers than you found before, I think that does add a fair amount of replay value to the level, but also just to be able to go into this kind of complete environment and just relax. It's a very relaxing, it's a very chill experience. Angie's been doing a great job with the levels that she's been putting together, and I'm really looking forward to more from her. Definitely a creator that I would like to keep my eye on, because they're very consistently good in what they're putting together, and I can only imagine that they're going to get better. So definitely give this one a check, and take a look at some of her other levels as well. She's got a number of levels and creations up there. But I think I've nannered on about this one just about enough. You can tell I loved it, and you can tell that I do recommend this as a playable experience. So do absolutely take a look at it and see what you think. But that does it for us here this go about. So from me, Risco, here in Osaka, to all of you out there, wherever you may happen to be, thank you. Arigato, arigato, sayonara, see you, and ciao.